All right. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Thank you for putting this
So,
together.
Russ, you want to tee up what the hell are we trying to do here? Because this was originally your brainchild, and then I got excited and got dragged into it, and then we got excited and dragged these poor saps into it. So, what are we trying to accomplish? You want to set that up for our conversation today?
Well, in the true sense of entrepreneurs, we're going to make something up and we're going to try and make it real. So it's so Anthony and I both sit on the board of the RIA, and I'm the task force chair for technology. I think I volunteered for it a couple of years ago. It's been a fuzzy year and a half, so I don't remember what I did or didn't do. And then Anthony reminded me that that's what we're supposed to be doing. And so he's the actual tech guy putting this whole live stream together, which is pretty amazing. But from the RIA's perspective, we want to introduce new either technologies or new softwares, new systems, new stuff that we can introduce to contractors that'll help make their life easier. We don't want to just kind of talk way out there like, hey, someday there's going to be robots dropping fans, DUs, and doing your jobs for you. But what can we do and what can we give our members now, or that can be fairly easily implemented without needing, somebody that lives in Silicon Valley and, works out of a Starbucks to be able to do it properly. So what can we do, or what are some different things that we can talk about? How can we make technology help our teams and our employees be more efficient? So that's kind of the route and the direction we're going to go. And, we're just want to have a conversation, talk about it, get a bunch of guys that are super smart in the room where me and Anthony can just kind of ask some questions, take notes, and then take it back to our own businesses and implement what you guys talk about. So that's our goal.
Yeah.
Why am I here then?
hang on. We'll get to that. I haven't even done intros. So yeah, that's the basic intention here, and loose format. Probably going to riff and go down some rabbit holes because that's what each of our brains likes to do. But I want to start at the beginning and just give everybody the opportunity to make some introductions. I'll go ahead and start with you, Kevin.
Sure. So I'm a second generation restorer. I've been in the industry really since I was a young teenager, and then full time for just over 20 years, I guess. And so I'll try to be succinct. The super high level is my entire career has been built around supporting restoration contractors, mostly in the domain of large loss and equipment rental and providing drying expertise as a sub. And in the last handful of years, I've kind of gravitated towards the technology space and built a company that manages equipment and fleet and supporting that portion of a typical restoration contractor's business.
Awesome. And then my follow-up question that I'll ask everybody: why do you choose to stay, man?
So I have a theory. The restoration industry is kind of like the mob. You ever watch the movie The Goodfellas? I think it was Goodfellas. Like once you get in, you can never get out. I think it's kind of like along that analogy. And I think from everyone I know, like once you get into this industry, for some reason, you're sucked into it for life. At least that's my perspective. Why? I don't know. I think there's the element of you're helping people in time of need, and I think there's that whole kind of component that feeds a good part of your soul and whatnot. And I think it's honorable work, and I think for the most part it can be profitable as well. So there's obviously that element, and I don't know, it's fun, it's rewarding, it's challenging, it's different, always changing.
Awesome.
That works well for those with ADD. Like always a new challenge, always something there.
Yeah.
Like
I think
plus it's an adrenaline rush too.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. Steven, why don't you go ahead and give yourself an intro here?
Yeah. So, well, first and foremost, thanks for having me. I geeked out with probably everybody on here about the technology and potential for advancement. So it's cool to be a part of this conversation. My background, I've been in commercial real estate ownership, and tech the entirety of my 15-year career. Started out on the ownership side. I always jokingly say I was the jerk client that was like, why don't you just mop it up? Like that was my early days of naivete that I didn't really quite understand the extent to which I was like, all I know is that our tenants are out of the building and they need to get back. So why is this taking so long? But yeah, prior to starting Capabuild, which is a field documentation, field operations management platform, I started a software kind of hybrid software services company alongside some other co-founders. As of this week, just got acquired by Jones Lang LaSalle. But it was a tool that really came out of the course that all of us were competitors, the founders, and we were annoyed by the fact that I spent most of my day in the field helping companies assess projects in real estate. And I went back and had to do all this paperwork in the back office. So we literally just built a tool that allowed you to do a lot of this mobily. And what we found was like the financial unlock that occurred. And so, I took that company to about $20 million $20 million in revenue a year, along with my co-founders, and was kind of looking for that next challenge coming out of COVID. And I just kept coming back to restoration. I'd incurred one too many restoration projects. And I just really, the thing that I liked was one, being able to take that approach of like, how can I build tooling to help people in the field so they have to do less work when they're in the back office, to hope ideally none. And then subsequently, when I started meeting restoration contractors, these are people that genuinely care about their customer. We have a saying in our company of we never try to lose sight of the fact that we're helping the helpers. One thing that I think is lost for most customers of restoration, when a restoration contractor comes in and does a perfect job by every imaginable standard, they just did their job because you just got the property back to what it was before this whole thing happened. And oftentimes they're not getting much credit. And so we want to build as much tooling as we can to help them, kind of do that. Part of that is oftentimes pointing them in directions that I don't make a dollar from. Say, hey, this would be a cool tool that you can use. So that's kind of a hybrid answer for the two questions you asked, Kevin.
Awesome. And then Russ, pretend like nobody knows who you are. What would you tell them?
Oh, geez. I'm Russ. I'm the lead water tech at Titan Restoration in Arizona. Started the company about 28 years ago, so I've been doing it a few years, almost as long as Kevin. I did not grow up in this business, so I had to start after, while I was in college. But we've got a restoration company out here in Phoenix, Arizona now. We now have 4 locations. It's been almost 6 years ago, we saw a need in the industry and we built a job management system called Accelerate, which me and Rachel Stewart and another founder who meshed, the 3 of us started it up and built it and got it going and got it running. Got a bunch of users on it, and then we just took on a capital partner about 3 weeks ago, and now Main Sale Partners is now the owner of Accelerate, and they're going to take their horsepower, their cash, and take it to the next level and continue to improve on what we started and what we built. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. And I guess I've been on the RIA board now. I'm on my second term, so 4 or 5 years. I can't remember when Mark wrote me into this thing and asked me to be a part of it, but it's been a fun ride and been exciting to be a part of.
Awesome. And then why don't you leave?
Because I don't know how to do anything else.
I feel that way.
It would be starting over, but no, it truly is fun. I'm not in the field as much anymore, but being able to grow and teach, coach, mentor the people that are in my office and my teammates, that's still fun to see them. Where can you take a kid straight out of college, teach them some skills, teach them life skills, teach them some stuff, get them introduced to a career that they can basically go anywhere in the country, and if they need to move or they want to move or do some different things, and have a skill that they can utilize for the rest of their life. And I've had some guys that I've taken straight out of college. They've started their own restoration companies, and a couple of them just exited recently, and they've made more money than than a high school kid straight out of high school ever should have made, which is awesome. Just to see that type of success and to see that type of growth and mentorship, it's kind of like the rising tide raises all boats. I like to help be that rising tide and help other people and really start them on that. So, we're in the restoration space, which is, again, it's really cool to go see some really, messed up houses and some different things and see all the disasters and be a part of that. There's an adrenaline feature to that. The ADD feature, like, hey, something new, bright, shiny, and you get to go work with a different customer, a different project or different job. That's fun too. But yeah, it's, that's mainly why I still stick around. It's my wife would go nuts if I stayed at home or tried to get a new job or go be a Walmart greeter or something. It'd drive me nuts too. So
awesome. And then myself, grassroots restoration technician in the industry. Moved to Hawaii in 2009, played a significant role in growing and building a large restoration company, 4 locations, 160 employees, and then took a hard left a couple of years ago and decided I wanted to not be having my phone ring in my pocket all the time so I could hang out with my kids, and took the consultant route and have been having a lot of fun working directly with owners and implementing processes and procedures and how process and procedure can knock dust out of the air. So then that way things become more clear. And I think the common thread that pulls all of us together here today is there's no other place I can think of where you can show up and make a difference on day one.
Yeah.
Just want to leave this earth knowing that my presence was meaningful to somebody somewhere, right? And in restoration, you get the opportunity to do that every day. And so, yeah, it satisfies my ego a little bit, quells my heart and makes me happy. So,
especially on like their worst day of their life, like you're either watching your house or your business go up in smoke, like you think the world's about to end. And then, like you said, you show up and you provide some light and some hope and some of that. So that's well put.
All right. I'm going to take us into the conversation, and no conversation about technology wouldn't be complete without a nod to AI. Even though everybody's talking about AI right now, I'm going to force all of us into one bucket. And this is one where I'm going to be informed as well. So I want each of you to pick one AI tool you feel like the restoration industry needs to know about, and give us the top down on it in 30 seconds or less. Who wants to jump first?
Kevin gets to.
I don't claim to be an AI expert, so I will say that first. But I know a little bit about a lot, I guess maybe is the best way to put it. Yesterday, OpenAI introduced an upgrade to ChatGPT 4 with their real-time API for speech, voice to voice. So many people may not have been aware of that because it's literally a brand new announcement yesterday, which I think is going to be a game changer. So imagine if anyone's, I think lots of people are using ChatGPT now in the traditional form, thumbing, texting, whatever. But now there'll be applications that can literally be built upon this new API where you can literally have a conversation like we're having right now, interrupt it. It can interrupt you as an example and like have like a really dynamic conversation to really suss out whatever it is you're trying to sort, if you will, or you're in the middle of, if you bring it to the context of restoration, you can start to see some pretty interesting use cases where a field technician is literally in a building and doing some activity and really start to drive some like on-demand informational training, process enforcement, whatever the case may be in that kind of realm. And we can dive into that later if you like. There's some pretty cool stuff that's not far away that will deal with that. And then additionally, OpenAI in that same announcement yesterday, what was it? Has to do with, I'm just trying to pull it from my memory banks. I think I need another cup of coffee. But it has to do with imaging assessing images, and let me see. I think I might have it somewhere because I don't
Like
want to.
object
Yeah, you can train the
recognition
model.
type stuff.
Yeah, you can train.
Yeah.
I want to speak out of turn here. Where the heck is it? So it's called vision fine tuning. So it allows the models to be
Yeah.
trained both with images and text. So it allows the developers to optimize image recognition analysis. So when you start to think about, 3D cameras and stuff, some of the stuff Steven's doing with Capability and his geospatial scanning stuff, there's going to be some pretty badassery functionality, I think, that, companies that are leveraging that tech inside their stack can do some pretty cool stuff. So we can maybe jump into some of those use cases that look like maybe, but that's new-ish as of yesterday. So that's cool.
Awesome. What about you, Steven?
Yeah, I think, one thing we even use for ourselves, right? Yeah, it's like I'm hiring a lot of people. We're based in San Francisco. I'm hiring a lot of people that I have to explain in the interview. It's like they have a lot of raw talent, but it's like, this is what restoration is. And so it's a big education curve, but in under a day, we stood up a Chat GPT app internally for ourselves. So it's a knowledge base and a knowledge repository that people can communicate in natural language. So our engineers, when they're building a new product, they have a question, they're querying our Chat GPT app. Now we pay the whatever $20 per month for these guys to use it in a lot of different ways, but like that is something that every organization across the board, even if you're going to pay for it just for your back of office, should do, no matter what. And I've got a two-part answer. You can't hold me to one. I've got another one that, but yeah, Chat GPT apps, it is idiot proof to get that thing done. And the reason I say that is I asked my mom, I was like, hey, I was curious, can you do this? She is unfortunately managing, kind of the estate. A couple of her siblings and family members have passed away recently, and she's just trying to keep heads and tails of all this stuff. And I literally walk into her the little guest room they have at their house, and there's just stacks of paper. And I asked her to build an app with just that information. She did it in 2 days, and I had to show her how to sign in to ChatGPT. That's where we started. Anyway, I think it's something that is like, I think a lot of people that are going to be watching this or, across the industry have ChatGPT licenses to begin with. It is so easy to build these apps for your organization. And I think that's a huge unlock that a lot of people should have, and it's dynamic. You keep adding information into it, you're going to get information back. And then another one that we leverage heavily internally as well is for a lot of the different systems and tools and interfaces we use as we bring in new team members, educating them, or we're making decisions around how we're presenting things, is Loom. It's the easiest. Like I've been in Ubers to airplanes and produced Loom videos, calling something out to somebody. And the cool thing is they have like AI text generation off of the transcript that does like you can do an SOP, you can draft an email. There's different structures you can do from it, but like both of those are each under $20 a month to use. And we leverage, I probably use it at least 10 times a day. So those are two, I think, that like are imminently valuable to people. They could do it as early as this afternoon.
Awesome. What about you, Russ? What's top of mind?
Well, you don't want to know the squirrels running around in my head right now, but ChatGPT is and OpenAI is obviously the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and there's so much you can do with it, especially with the new 4.1 and some of these other models. So I'm going to kind of go a couple different directions. If you're using ChatGPT or something along those lines, or Gemini or one of these other large language models to kind of draft something, or you want to get multiple different inputs, like say you want one from Claude, you want one from OpenAI, you want one from Gemini, you want one from Perplexity, which is another really good knowledge base, more
a lot right now.
It doesn't hallucinate as much, and Copilot and a couple others. There's actually one called chathub.gg, which will do all 6 of them at the same time. So you can do one input, get 6 different answers, and then you really want to start messing with them. You start pulling them off and having them all grade each other's answers, and you can really go down some weird rabbit holes that way. So that's one way where you can kind of get a bunch of different inputs, because they're all using different data sets, and there's, Perplexity has, for example, has more real-time data as compared to some of the other ones.
That's
You can use
new.
Grok if you want some smart-ass type, remarks, or, you want a Ryan Reynolds type, large language model coming back at you. It's a little quirky. So, but yeah, I mean, those are kind of the things that you can do. In our office, our guys use a couple of different things. You can, like one of our coordinators uses it to take a recording, like a transcript of a call, runs it through ChatGPT, gets a succinct summary, what's the action item, what's the things, and then she'll put that in as a job note. So what used to take, let's say you have a 10-minute phone call and you have to remember everything that's going on it, and what are the action items, what is the customer asking for, all of those types of items, and then trying to remember all that, and then spending the next 20 minutes trying to craft that email or that note that goes in your job management system, and getting interrupted by the people coming in and the phone calls and everything else that's happening. She can turn that around in less than a minute or two. So it's pretty quick on how that works. And so, she's doing that, and the summaries are really like cool. When you get them, you're like, holy cow, this is succinct. It's really nice. And our technicians are doing the same thing. Like, we've all got technicians that'll enter a note that's no capitalization, no punctuation. It's like a one giant run-on sentence that's like 4 pages long. Our technicians now are just copying, pasting into the free version of ChatGPT and just saying, hey, rewrite this, and it comes out beautiful. They copy and paste and they put it in. Or if they put it in Spanish, they can do it, it'll translate to English and do that kind of stuff too. So there's some really cool, like, practical use cases that don't even cost anything to do.
Yeah.
Plus, it starts learning you as you're asking the questions. Even the free version will learn your nuances and the way you talk, or the cadences and the different things you're asking, and start remember that too. So
that's awesome.
The one that pops out to me, like, I think about technicians in the field, similarly based on ChatGPT, but kind of loading in the IICRC equipment calculations. And I heard a story about a guy who was like in the field, had a DHU, didn't know what the pints per day was on it, and just took a picture of it and was like, hey, for a 10 by 20 room with 8-foot ceilings, how many of these DHUs do I need? Right. And it spit out the answer, and he was like, cool. Went and grabbed a second DHU, walked it in, set it up. Yeah. And it was off to the races. Right. And then the other one that I, like, this is more, maybe less restoration, more Anthony Nelson, is like, I cannot get over Opus Pro and the ability to take like a long form interview like this, throw it in, have it chopped up, have it look all cool and sexy with all the, TikTok highlight words and everything like that, done for an individual who's not creative like myself, to be able to have AI solve my creative problems and generate content for me all day.
Cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you can do that. The other thing, like, I just did a panel for RIA, and so I just recorded it on Otter, like, digitizing.
That's a great one too. Yeah.
Otter, Fathom, Fireflies, those are all great ones. But I just did Otter while I was sitting on the stage, took a recording of it, put it in what's called Notebook LM, it's a Google's product. Yeah. Loaded it up. And then there's a way you can create, it's basically a podcast based on the data. It's a man and a woman kind of just basically recapping everything. So they took this 1.5-hour presentation, broke it up into 10 minutes, hit all the summaries, hit all the comments, hit all the quotes, hit everything there. And it's like, holy cow. And it was the first try. I didn't even do like, it was just a one shot. I uploaded it and turned it, and I'm like, oh, this is sweet. It's amazing what can happen with AI right now.
We're only 10 minutes in this thing, and I'm learning a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, right.
I was about to swear. I remember, I'm not just speaking to my buddies. There's other people watching, but you guys got some good.
Anthony's going to have to mute out the F-bombs.
Yeah.
No. I'm all about transparency over here, Russ. All right, let me change gears. Right, one of the hot topics. If you looked at the industry trends, one of the greatest challenges that is facing our industry is, how do we more succinctly and more accurately communicate what's happening in the field to adjusters. And so the question is, what are some immediate steps restorers can take to improve communication with adjusters and carriers using either free tools or tools they probably already have access to today?
I think table stakes now is like, if you're not using a geospatial scanning application, so whether that's Cable's tool or DocuSketch or Matterport or the like you're already like that's table stakes. Every restorer ought to be using that, in my opinion. And then if you are using that, so if you're not, that's step one.
Yeah.
And then if you are, great. How do you continue to optimize that? I think, Russ already kind of said it. I think you kind of took a little bit of that thunder from where I was thinking in the sense, but taking a video or a voice note and then putting that into ChatGPT or some other kind of service that can drive workflow or even fill out a form as an example. So if you want to create like a standardized output from an inspection as an example, I think there's some interesting things you can do with OpenAI's tools and creating a GPT and say like, here's my standardized template. This is how I want it. Take this narration or this video and then feed it into this form template that I want and just make that a consistent output as just an idea. So I think those are kind of like a couple little things, and there's plenty more. You can use some of my tools too, but
yeah,
shamelessly.
You talk about like consistency, Kevin. It's like, I think that's what we've seen. I'll be the first to admit, I'm 3 years into being a student of this industry, and I'll forever be the new guy in my mind. But the companies we've seen do the best, and I'm going to steal from, I don't know if this is Chris Laney's phrase from E3, but he says it all the time. It's like consistent and repeatable results. It's in that doesn't necessarily need to be whatever TPA or compliance, kick or list you're running through. It's your version of it. And so when you're communicating externally with adjusters, you're not playing on their field. You're always playing, and use a sports analogy, you're always playing a home game. This is how we present things. If you want to talk on that ledger, we can talk on it. But this is the information I'm presenting, and you can run people through it so that as you're educating your team and team members, graduating up, moving out, you've always got that same consistent, repeatable, SOPs, one way to think about it. But like, it's more so the exported information you're sharing and you're using as a reference tool. It's not, oh wait, gosh, we did that for Alacrity. Oh, and we did that for Code Blue. And oh wait, it's just a lot to keep straight in your head. That's why tools like Dash have been successful, because they help you kind of personalize that towards whatever partner you're working with. At the end of the day, like, it's very hard to run a business on 20 different mandated workflows when you have to memorize all these things. So I think rather than trying to get better at memorization, start with one you're really good at, and then try to work on the translation experience. But I think it starts with I think we're going to spend a lot of time talking on this panel talking about technology, but you have to start with process first. The companies we've seen the best, like, technology inevitably will fail in some facet. There's going to be some unique environment. There's going to be some unique workflow that doesn't necessarily, the three of us that are, run tech companies here have seen like, well, I never would have thought that environmental constraint would have occurred. And man, that's so weird that happened. Okay, let's fix it. But the companies that have really good process to back up their tools are the ones that don't skip a beat. They're like, hey, this happened. Can we fix it? But don't worry, we've got fail-safe processes. So I think that process and keeping that consistency of reporting, beholden to your own business. We decided, hey, this is our brand. This is how we do. This is how we run our business. I think the more you can do that, the better you'll get consistent results from adjusters, because they kind of conform to, hey, I know I'm interfacing with this brand. This is how they do things. I get it by this point.
I think people need to be a little bit cautious too, not to like overcomplicate this stuff. Like, at the end of the day, we need to remember what we're here for in the first place, which is mitigating and restoring a property. And so in simple terms, in my brain anyways, the idea is how do how do you create a transparent story that can be shared with others to support everything you did?
Yeah. I think one of the things that I'm seeing a lot of folks utilize is like in adjuster responses, and I'll take it down to a tactical level, right? The carrier that doesn't allow 2 coats of paint. And how do you articulate, like, and dude, it's a dark color, or we had to reshoot tech, whatever the constraint is, like, it's just going to look crappy without that second coat of paint. And you don't want to go through the exercise of putting a coat of paint on, taking photos, going back and re-justifying that. And then it kind of also solving for, I feel like in a lot of our adjuster responses, we kind of do one of these. We're like, oh yeah, I'm going to go nail this mother, right? Like kind of taking your own bias and frustration out of it and utilizing a large language model tool to construct an objective response. And I've even seen this where, the stereotypical, I sent my estimate to somebody, I got the estimate back, and they give you the line item number and they tell you what to do with it, right? And being able to prompt ChatGPT and be like, I accept, the revisions on these 7 lines, construct rebuttal responses for these lines, and then uploading the estimating guidelines as an attachment. So then that way the large language model can reference those guidelines and kind of reverse engineer responses in accordance with the guidelines, as opposed to, have you ever shot drywall texture? Do you know how hard this is? Right? Like, no, like utilize some of those tools to go ahead and construct a response that is not adversarial, but is technical. And, I remember I used to spend like hours, like, I'm not going to let this guy win, and I'm not going to let him get my ego and fighting that back. Whereas now you can throw that stuff into ChatGPT, get your response and go, okay, it's 90% correct. Here's the few edits I want. Bam. Let's.
Claude's also really good for, like, Russ brought up the fact of, like, you're using different responses. Like, ChatGPT is really good for data analysis. Claude's really good for written communication. Like, I find the outputs there, and maybe Kevin, you can kind of opine on that as well, given the kind of the data you're pulling from Kahi. But it's really like those different platforms you can use this. Think of them like tools in the toolkit. It's like you're not going to use a hammer for everything, but I think, some of those, like, everyone, ChatGPT is the most prominent, but I think, Russ, you brought up like 5 different tools, 6 different tools you're leveraging. Like,
well, it's just one tool that has 6 built into it.
Yeah.
So let's back up a little bit for those that are new to this AI discussion. Anthony was just spitting out a whole bunch of technical stuff with the assumption of, here's how to do it. So we can back this up a little bit. So let me translate for what Anthony said when he said you take a ChatGPT, you copy paste, do this and this, and then you upload a PDF. So as we back this up, the first thing you want to do is you just want to get signed into, you go to openai.com and sign in and get the free version. And there's some limited stuff you can do with that. If you pay $20 a month, you open yourself up to a whole lot more to it. Start with the free version. We'll keep it PG, but my mentor in AI told me all you do is FAFO. You just FAFO everything, and you're never going to break it. You're not going to mess with it, but you have to F around and find out how to do stuff. So a lot of it is just trial and error. But so we're going to help you out a little bit with that. So once you're signed into ChatGPT, there's going to be like a little search bar there that'll allow you to kind of do a search bar. And then you can take a PDF, you can drag it in there, which would be your carrier guidelines. You can then take copy and paste from your Adobe PDF that's in, your Xactimate is in, and put those in there. And the most important thing is you have to ask and learn how to ask good questions. Once you start, and the best part about AI is you can ask AI how to ask good questions to ask AI. So you can use it like, hey, how do I ask you a good question about this that I can get a good response about this? And you just, you can ask it and anything it'll do. So when you do that, that's how Anthony's saying that you can get the, ChatGPT, for example, that'll read the PDF, know what the context is. It'll go about with the other stuff in its database that may be part of that. And then you ask specific questions about it and it'll spit out a response. when you change subjects, you want to start a new discussion, not off the same one, because it'll bring up hallucinations off the other one. So is there anything else you guys want to add to that to kind of bring, like say the beginner up to that?
Yeah, I think just a couple little things. One is, so the questions is they also, for those that maybe are new to this, is they call them prompts. And so there's plenty of resources out there now that you can get canned prompts from, or like you can get little mini courses on how to create your own prompts, aka questions, if you will.
How to become a prompt engineer.
Yeah. What's interesting though, I think is going to kind of become not obsolete. That's not the right way to say it, but it's based on what I shared earlier. So that this latest announcement from OpenAI around this voice-to-voice functionality that they're coming up with, we're soon going to see, I suspect, pretty quick here, that whole like dialogue interaction like we're having right now. And this is going to be a lot more conversational and easier to pull and produce the information or whatever it is that you're looking for or trying to do. So I think that's going to, I think it's changing fast is the short story.
Yeah, I think one of the just a couple things to add to that. One of the most, I think, profound things that someone told me about thinking about how to implement AI into your kind of day-to-day is think if you have one of like a top tier honor roll high school student that literally never sleeps, but they are smart on everything. They just have no context as to what you need them to be smart on. So treat them as such. You need to kind of give them context of like, this is why this is important. This is what I need you to focus on, but they won't stop working. You're not going to get some PhD level person that's, going to come to their own conclusions out of it. As Kevin mentioned, it's like this kind of stuff's not far off. And then one other little fun fact I found recently from a buddy who's a AI founder is emotional manipulation of these LLMs. I don't know about the Skynet ramifications of it, but if you say, I need this done, or I will lose my business or something like that, just to have a fun experiment as you're kind of, as Russ explained, kind of getting spun up, test just asking a question. Hey, can you analyze my expenses over the last 6 months and tell me where I spent the most money? Or say, hey, my boss will fire me. I will lose my home if I don't get this right. The output is astoundingly different. It's like, actually, it's not hallucination. It ends up being better, which, I don't know, begs the question, some other deeper, darker things. But in the near term, you're going to get a better response on the imposing gravity of the situation of like, hey, this is really important. You get this right. Your output from these models is just going to be starkly different.
I haven't tried that. Like,
It's crazy, Russ. It's like I tried it. I was like, wow, this is not good. That if you do this, someone will do a lot better job. But hey.
Yeah, no. What I've done as far as prompt stacking is like, for example, if I'm doing a marketing piece or something like that, I'll say you're a world-class marketer, and have it give me, sometimes I'll have it give me 1 example, 5 examples, 10 examples, and then when they give it to you, you can just say, hey, that sucks. Give me something way better than that. And then it'll like, oh, sorry, and then it'll like spit out. And a lot of times you can do that 2 or 3 different times and get even a much better response on that, just by prompt stacking or giving it, like you said, context of like, you're a restoration company and I need some, it's fun. You can get all kinds of crazy stuff. Like even the S500 is pretty much on there. It's been uploaded enough times and it knows what it is. You can say, hey, I'm a restoration guy and I'm trying to find out, this, and it'll spit it out and do some different things with it. So yeah, give it context, give it like kind of who and what you're looking, and maybe even what the outcome you're looking for is, and ask it those things.
And I've even prompted ChatGPT and said, how do I ask you how to achieve this outcome? And it will educate me on the correct prompts to use. And usually like it'll just do it if I'm clear enough. And so sometimes just like, it's a freaking computer. You don't have to show up like a wizard scientist. Just show up as the idiot that you are and ask for what you need. And it doesn't care. Like it really, like, it's not like when I go to my wife and I'm like, oh man, I really want steak for dinner. And I know she doesn't want steak right now. How do I sell my wife on steak? No, ChatGPT will eat steak every day. It doesn't care. Right.
I still say thank you though. I don't want to be the guy that pissed off the AI in 50 years.
Yeah, you're the Skynet guy. There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
We got just a few more minutes. I want to ask one more question to you guys.
you've only asked one question.
I know. Well, I got to try and get two in. Okay, Russ? So if I'm an owner operator, right, and I'm running a smaller team, right? Let's say it's me and a handful of technicians out in the field producing product. What could I start to do to prepare my team for a tech-driven future? Like, are there specific training practices or tools that I should be encouraging them to adopt now? So then that way they're ready for what's coming in the future, right? Like and I've had this conversation with all three of you where, maybe there's a beer or two involved and we're talking about what AI, like the Roomba air mover concept and all of these things, right? Like, okay, we're not there yet, but if that's where we know we're going to be, what should I be doing in my business today to be ready for that?
I've got one. Like the biggest thing is to, there's a quote going around. Nobody knows who really is attributed to it, but you're not going to lose your job to AI, but you will.
It's
lose your
Jensen
job
Huang,
to some,
the NVIDIA guy. That's
Is
the
it the-
CEO of NVIDIA. Yeah.
I don't know if he's the one, but yeah, you're not going to lose your job to AI, but you will lose your job to somebody who is using AI. And for a lot of people, they're like, well, what does that mean? I said, well, you have two candidates with equal qualifications. One has a smartphone, one has a flip phone. Which one are you going to hire?
Mhm.
They have the same qualifications, but I'm going to go with the guy with the smartphone because he can do his, notes in the field. He's got a bunch of different things. And, let's say take it even worse. Who are you going to hire? The guy with the smartphone or the pager? It could be that drastic as to what it is. So just play with it. Learn, I sent you, Anthony, a QR code that we used at the RIA Tech panel. If, whoever's watching this, you can scan the QR code and it'll pull up all the different tools that we used, that we recommended or talked about, kind of cost, what they're used for, what they're not used for. So you can really play around with that. And then the other thing I would say is because there is so many tools, it's like going into a Snap-on truck. There's like thousands of tools in there, but you have to have a job that you need to be done before you get the right tool. You can't get a hammer, to open a wrench or, to take an engine block apart. So a lot of times if you can find out what your outcome is or what problem you're trying to solve, you can go to a website called There's an AI app for that. Or there's an AI for that. I can't remember exactly. It's in the QR code. But it's a Google search for AI apps, and you can ask it, hey, here's what I'm trying to do, and it'll list all the AI apps and the ones that are out there. And I don't know if they're ranked in order or like if there's paid SEO or anything in that yet. I don't know if it's still too new. They're just spitting out like which AI apps work the best.
Yeah, I'm gonna go from maybe a somewhat different perspective. Perhaps is we have kind of a tongue-in-cheek profile of restorers. We have Restoration Ronnie and we have Executive Ed. And so you're asking about Restoration Ronnie, and he's definitely on the tools and in the files and still very hands-on. And how I interact with the Ronnies of the world when we're talking about Kahi and what we're doing there, a lot of those individuals seem to be very cost-centric, and I can empathize and appreciate why, because they're smaller and cash flow and all the things that kind of go along with, the narrative that they're living in, I guess you could call it. And so, how do I say? I'll caution the contractor in you to not always be cost-centric. And really encourage you to look beyond the cost of the service that you might be entertaining to look at. And you really need to start getting your company digitized, because I come across a ton of companies, frankly, that are not using any technology still, a lot. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be very difficult for you to go from basically pen and paper or virtually nothing, which I actually do see often as well, to a very modernized infrastructure with all kinds of different tool sets and whatnot, like we're talking about now. Like this, for the Ronnies that are listening to this conversation, they're going to be like, WTF in by and large, right? And so, simple. Look at some field service tools that you can help to just get your photos, get your notes centralized into a tool, figure out how you're going to track your equipment. Yeah, tracking your equipment is going to cost you perhaps a few $100-ish a month for the 3 or 4 truck fleet. But what often restorers don't take into account is all the BS on the backside that they typically do not account for, which is chasing their technician. How much gear did we put on this job? And, I got to justify this to this reviewer or carrier or whatever the case may be. And all these kinds of things just suck you out of like what you should be doing, which is developing your people and growing your business. And so start with just that. Never even mind the AI and all that other sexy stuff that's happening right now. Please learn about it, of course, but get started on something and stop worrying about the cost. Yes, you need to be prudent and all that good stuff, but you need to start at the basics. So get a field service software, start to find a job management system that works and can automate workflow, and don't be scared to invest in something and throw it in the garbage in a year, because frankly, things are going to be changing very quickly. And so just get comfortable with that as well.
Steven?
Yeah, I think it's hard to follow those two. But I think that coming from, a software first background, I think one of the biggest problems, we fight against in our own business is when we hire people from other tech companies, there's always a software for that. Oh, I slacked you from a Notion to a email to and like people pick whatever repository they like working in the most. We take a very methodical approach in our business, and I try to educate any business owner to do so. There's no amount of tooling that will solve a bad process. You can ask AI to help you kind of coach, hey, how can I improve my process? But, a lot of times, any of the companies, we work with, it's like on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, we have one pen, and no, this isn't like minimizing these, like tiny little text. What do you do? From we have someone we know that might want work to I just got paid. Like what happens in between? And if you know that process down pat, then you go out and you source software solutions and you source, technology, whether it be hardware, tracking, et cetera, that fits your process. I think, one thing we see a lot of is people buy things and they don't really know why. They buy it because, oh, well, that's the next hot new thing. And we even see that sometimes people meet with us like, hey, I've heard about you. And it's like, I don't think we're fit. I don't think we fit you. So I think first and foremost, there's going to be a lot of hype over the next few years and then some around all these crazy AI tools. Don't go buy the extra tool. Figure out what you need and try to simplify. Like Kevin said, it's like, you need to pick what you do and what's important to you. I think alongside, following kind of figuring out your process is we're seeing it, significantly here in kind of Silicon Valley. Is like your data is now your like most valuable asset. And so everyone's talking about it with like social media. It's like, look at how much my information is being monetized with advertisers and, ad targeting, et cetera. And Facebook's getting to make all this money on, Google, et cetera, are making all this money on us, but we don't see a dime of it.
Right.
Carriers are going to do the same thing. It's like they're going to, and you know what? I don't fault them for it. They've invested, they've set up infrastructure to do so, and they're trying to improve their business. So finding systems that allow you, like Hockey, shamelessly like Cave Build, that help you collect data. I mean, accelerate data collection. Like all these tools allow you to collect your data and can process that information. That's where your real power comes from. These two AI tools are going to get really good, but as we've mentioned numerous times in this discussion, context is important. You can't just flip a light switch and go, hey, I've got this a powerful AI tool, but I don't have 5 years of organized data. So pick
Yeah.
platforms that allow you to process this information and are API first, are open to expanding into these other systems and aren't just housing your data and trying to control it. So I think process and controlling data, those are going to be the two biggest things that a business can invest in, and an individual, quite frankly, can invest in going forward. That's going to position them well for whatever's to come in the future.
If I might just drop
That's
one
great advice.
small little thing, sorry, too, is I see a lot of restorers trying to chase a unicorn, in the sense that they want the silver bullet to solve all their problems and all their challenges. And like, it's just not reality. And so if you can get a 50% lift on what you're doing today versus what you could be doing with, whatever tool you're pretty much landing on, like, that's still a huge gain.
Yeah.
And you're still going to have some challenges, but like, at least you're getting a big gain. And get into it, use it, and if something else comes along, be comfortable with the fact that, yeah, you might have burned some cash and some time and resources, but because something better has now come upon you, great. Just get comfortable with that, because like, it's just the nature of where tech is going and how fast this industry is starting to move, even though it doesn't seem like it.
Well, how many people were on MySpace back in the day?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I mean, AOL was like one of my first search engines, Netscape. Like it's going to change. And, Microsoft doesn't do social media, but they do great where they do great at. So you have to switch, and there is no one silver bullet. The industry is way too small to have just one silver bullet that's the end all be all.
Yeah, and avoid contracts in the sense of locking yourself into some multi-year deal if you can at all costs, because things are changing and your needs will evolve and change as your business continues to scale, hopefully scale up, not down. But you don't want to be locked into something that's not serving you anymore. So if you can at all costs, avoid that too, I would say.
And I'm gonna close.
Sorry if anyone offers contracts here.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna close with this, and I know it's gonna be one that everybody's gonna want to talk about, and I'm gonna shut us down, and you guys are gonna get off the call and be frustrated. But like Stephen, you said, look, you talked about data and leveraging your own data. And when I look at that through the lens of process, the question I'm always asking is, what is the data that only restorers have? And it is the data you collect in the field. And so when you're engineering process, asking one simple question of everybody who touches a job file, which is, what does good look like for field data collection? Answering that question and getting it however you get it. And at this point, I kind of don't care. Take photos, take videos, do geospatial, do notes, have a template, tick sheets, whatever that is. Execute on it consistently, because what you can do with the utility of that data is what makes you special and unique as a restorer and creates value for your organization in perpetuity as we move forward, because nobody's going to go capture that data like you will.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Thank you guys for showing up today and, kind of running through the beta test on our first RIA technology roundtable. I did put the link to the AI tools we spoke about in this conversation in the comments. So if you were like, what the heck was Russ talking about? This like 6-panel chat GPT crap, the links are all there. Go use them, go play, and comment back. Let us know what you're seeing out there. Like, none of us are experts in any of this. We're all learning as we go. And you see, we learned from each other today.
Man, I didn't even know I was at the private chat tab. I didn't even see the other comments. It's probably good on the squirrel that he had. Man.
Oh, is there other comments? Holy crap. There's actually people watching this.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I thought we were just recording.
No, but thank you guys for showing up today. Appreciate you. And as always, thank you for everything you do for the industry. I'm excited. Every time I engage in one of these conversations, I get excited about what the future of our industry looks like. And I get excited for my 2 little girls who I hope someday will make the choice to be in property restoration. So thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hey, also, we're going to do a shameless plug here. We want to have continuous conversations on this. This doesn't just want to be a one and done. So if you guys, want to reach out to Anthony or I, you can, we'd love to get some additional thoughts or different conversations, different perspectives from people in the industry, and keep this conversation going. It's changing. We'd love to hear, like Kevin said, like AI just came out with 2 new tools yesterday, and they came out with the 4.1 like 3 weeks ago or a month. So it's rapidly changing, and there's going to be either a Grok or a Claude or something else, and it just keeps getting. Everybody's trying to one up each other, which is great. The rich guys are one upping each other, and we get a benefit from all these cool tools that they're creating and spending billions on. So, but yeah, if you know somebody in the industry or even outside of the industry that could kind of give us a unique perspective on the technology aspect, we'd love to have those ideas and love to get that kind of input and or thoughts from you guys. So, but I appreciate you guys spending your time here with us.
Yeah, I like just hanging out with my buddies and
Yeah,
cool.
like we can keep going for another hour. We can turn off the recording and then we can the real language can come out.
Joe Rogan style to do a 4-hour discussion.
I'll be scratching my head like, so what do you mean by cloud?
We'll have to hit pause to go take a bathroom break or the whole 9 yards. So
where is this being placed? I didn't even realize we were live either.
Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube.
Oh, cool. Right
on the
on.
RIA page. Yeah.
Beauty.
Cool. All right. I'll wrap us down. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. Appreciate it.